The fire hadn't stopped raining for 3 hours. Not rain in the traditional wet sense, but combustive debris shed from the ruptured orbital station above, falling in languid, spiraling arcs that sizzled on impact. The sky was a migraine of red and violet streaks, pierced with blinking hazard beacons and the occasional tumbling oxygen tank that hadn't yet realized it was no longer needed. Ryger Holt squinted up at the commotion and chewed the end of a protein ration stick that tasted vaguely of regret. His boots crunched over shattered crystallcrete and polymer roots of a once harmonious biodome, now a smoking memorial to interstellar diplomacy gone sour. He heard her before he saw her. Not words, not a voice, just a breath, a staggered, clicking intake that reminded him of a faulty valve trying to self-correct. He stepped over a fused skeleton of a recon drone and followed the sound, past a crumpled banner still bearing the words Unity Conference. Bridging species, sharing suns. Ironic, considering someone had bridged this place with plasma torpedoes. She was curled beside the husk of a diplomatic skimmer, half buried in mineral dust and wreckage, her pale skin stained with engine soot. Long, delicate ears arced back through tangled black hair, twitching at the sound of his approach. He paused. She blinked slowly, eyes violet and glassy, but sharp behind the pain. The kind of sharp that made you feel like your excuses were already irrelevant. Rieger sighed. "Well, damn," he muttered, dropping to a crouch. "You don't look like you're about to hand me a coupon for a free escape shuttle, huh?" She didn't answer, obviously, but her gaze narrowed just enough that he suspected she understood sarcasm on a genetic level. "Right. No sudden movements." He carefully slid his rifle over his shoulder, raising his hands like she might explode into teeth. "I'm not a bounty hunter or a scavenger. I mean, I'm technically both, but not right now. Right now, I'm just a guy who got stuck in a planetary barbecue." Still no answer. Her chest moved, shallowly. One leg was twisted unnaturally, armor singed at the joint. Her wrist blinked with foreign tech. Smooth, glowing runes, pulsing in a rhythm that did not belong to any Terran dialect. Ryger scratched his beard. "Well, you're not screaming. That's a start." He knelt beside her. The air shimmered with heat and distortion, smelling of ozone and melted ethics. She flinched when he touched her shoulder. Not from pain, from habit. He lifted her slowly, arms straining not from weight, but from the sheer surrealism of the act. No one touched alien survivors anymore. Not after the incident on Velsera Prime. Not after the data leach outbreak. Not after the Senate decided that fear was cheaper than compassion. Her armor felt cool against his arms. Too cool. Life signs low. "You're lucky I'm a sucker for lost causes," he muttered. Behind him, a sand-wheeled cargo transport exploded in an enthusiastic mushroom of flame. A metal foot spun lazily through the air and landed near his boot. He regarded it. Classy exit. He staggered through the wreckage, carrying her toward the shattered edge of the compound, where his shuttle, Rust Bucket's regret, waited under a camouflage tarp of questionable structural integrity. The shuttle greeted him with a disappointed chirp. "Unauthorized organic detected." "She's with me," Ryger grunted, bumping her head against the hull accidentally. "Sorry, I meant to be gallant." "Gallantry is not a recognized medical protocol," the ship replied. "Neither is snark. Let me in." The hatch sighed open. Inside, the lighting flickered in moods ranging from sulky to migraine-inducing. Ryger laid her gently on the med bench, ignoring the way the scanner beeped once, and then pretended to crash. Yeah, he muttered. "Just run the diagnostics." The ship whirred. Genetic data unrecognized. Biological matrix inconsistent with registered species. Also, she might be leaking. "She's bleeding, you cultural vacuum." "I'm a starship, not a therapist." Rieger pulled off his jacket and used it to cushion her head. He fetched the emergency field kit, knocked over 2 crates, stubbed his toe, and cursed in 4 languages. The alien woman watched him with an expression that bordered on amused, or perhaps confused by the profanity. "I know what I'm doing," he said unconvincingly. "You're going to be fine. Probably." He worked on her leg first. The joint was dislocated and possibly broken, but the scanner refused to translate a Lindgren bone structure. He did what he could, braced it, stabilized the pulse, and applied nanogel with the precision of a drunk octopus. "You know," he said, sitting back, wiping his brow, "you're taking this better than I expected. Most people scream when I play doctor." She looked at him. Actually looked. Her lips parted. "Ugly doctor," she whispered. Ryger blinked, then laughed. "Oh, now you talk." She blinked slowly again. There was blood on her lips, but the corner of her mouth curved upward, just barely. "Yeah, all right," he said, grinning. "Insult accepted. Welcome aboard, Princess Pointy Ears." The scanner beeped again, then again, a third time. "Vital signs stabilizing," it said. "Probability of imminent demise reduced by 30%. Ryger pumped a fist. "We're practically dating now." She didn't laugh, but she didn't stop him when he draped the emergency blanket over her and adjusted the lights to something softer. Outside, the debris rain continued. Inside, the unlikely pair rested. One unconscious, one exhausted, both tangled in a situation bigger than either had imagined. And somewhere far above the planet, hidden in the wreckage of forgotten satellites, a dormant transponder blinked awake, triggered by the biometric sync of two incompatible life forms now aligned. It sent a signal into the stars. The stars blinked back. Ilsera woke to the sound of someone arguing with a coffee machine. Not yelling, arguing, full sentences, accusations, threats of legal action. "You know you're an appliance, right?" Rigar's voice carried through the cramped quarters of the shuttle. "You're not supposed to refuse service. You're not a barista with opinions." The machine responded with a series of aggressive beeps, then made a sound like a dying llama. Ilsera blinked slowly. Her vision was blurry, her body stiff and sore, but she was conscious. That counted as a minor miracle. She flexed her fingers. Pain flared down her arm, less miraculous. "You awake?" Ryger poked his head in, holding a dented mug and wearing a grin that suggested caffeine poisoning. "Don't panic. You're in my ship. I didn't kidnap you, unless you count saving your life as a felony, which in some sectors is technically true." She tried to sit up and promptly regretted the decision. A groan escaped her lips. "Yeah, don't do that," he said, setting the mug down and crouching beside the bench. "You took a hit, some kind of energy blast or, the violent judgment of the universe. Either way, you've been out for about 16 hours. She studied him. Short brown hair, a thin scar over his left eyebrow, armor that looked like it had seen better centuries. He looked more like a retired bouncer than a war hero. "And yet, you carried me," she said softly. "I mean, technically, yes," he replied, rubbing the back of his neck, "but only because everyone else was too busy not wanting to die of alien space diseases. Not that I'm saying you have one. Probably." Ilsera tilted her head. "You are unusual." "I get that a lot." She sat back, wincing. Her leg was braced, but someone had applied the nanogel properly. Her wounds were clean. Her armor had been set on the bench beside her, folded as neatly as a weapon of war could be. "You didn't strip me," she noted. Ryger blinked. "Well, I mean, I'm not an idiot." "Statistically," the ship's voice cut in, "you are. You're just jealous because I have legs." Ilsera's lips twitched, almost a smile. He stood, brushing imaginary dust from his trousers. "You hungry?" "I made synth eggs. They taste like actual disappointment. But I tried adding hot sauce, which now also tastes like disappointment, but spicier." She followed him slowly to the galley, leaning on the wall. The ship's corridor was narrow, cluttered, and smelled faintly of engine lubricant and overcooked beans. The dining area was a fold-out table and 2 seats bolted to the floor. Ryger handed her a plate. She stared at the contents like they might bite first. "You're not going to poison me," she said. "That's not a question. I'm deciding whether to be impressed or suspicious." He took a bite of his own food. "Probably both. That's my whole aesthetic." They ate in silence, the kind of silence that feels almost like conversation. Her eyes scanned the room, patched walls, stickers from obscure bars on moons she'd never heard of, and a plush frog sitting proudly in the navigation chair. "Is that your commanding officer?" "Only on Thursdays." After breakfast, she allowed him to assist her with calibrating the med sleeve. Her biosigns were stabilizing. The nanites in her blood were active again, repairing the internal damage. Her armor pinged softly from the bench. So, Ryger asked, tossing a datapad between his hands, are you going to tell me who tried to kill you? Or do I get to pretend this is a romantic getaway gone horribly wrong? She hesitated. He shrugged. Fair. Mystery is attractive. She studied him. You don't seem afraid of me. I've been afraid of worse things. One time I fought a carnivorous fungus colony that tried to negotiate a trade deal using interpretive dance. You just have long ears and an attitude. She arched a brow. You know who I am. Not officially, but I know you're a Lindren. She tensed. Relax. I'm not here to sell you to a warlord, unless he offers me a really nice hat. Like, really nice. With feathers and, okay, no, I'm joking. Mostly. She looked down at her hands. You shouldn't be helping me. Yeah, probably not. There was a long pause. I was part of the vanguard, she said. I was the last to fall. I don't know why they spared me, or why I woke up here. Because I have no common sense and a hero complex, Rhaegar replied. Plus, I like your vibe. It's very mysterious exile meets aesthetic tragedy. She frowned. It's a compliment. Sort of. Suddenly, the ship's alarm chirped. Incoming signal, it said. Encrypted. Origin unknown. Ryger moved to the console, fingers flying over the controls. Well, that's ominous. The screen flickered. A holographic sigil appeared. Triangular, pulsing with light. Ylsera froze. That's Elindrin. Should I be flattered or terrified? Both. The signal pulsed again, then vanished. What was that? He asked. A beacon, she said quietly. One only I should be able to activate, which means someone knows I'm alive. Ryger whistled. You ever have a moment where you realize you just stepped into a plot line way above your pay grade? She nodded solemnly. Cool, he said, grabbing his blaster and downing the last of his cold synth coffee. Because I think we're about to have several. The ship groaned. You have no idea. Ryger woke up to the smell of something burning, which wouldn't have been concerning if it weren't for the fact that he hadn't cooked anything. He rolled off his bunk, hit the floor with a grunt, and immediately accused the ship of arson. I swear if you tried to recalibrate the reheat coils again, it was your leftover synth lasagna, the ship's voice replied, dry as Martian sand. I attempted to neutralize it for safety. That was my lunch. It had developed sentience. I have no regrets. Rhaegar dragged on his boots and opened the galley door just in time to see Ylsera standing at the stove, poking at a blackened mass with the caution of someone expecting it to scream. Her long ears twitched. I attempted breakfast, she said. Rhaegar looked at the charred pan. I'm impressed. That takes real effort. You've achieved something beyond physics. I followed the instructions on your datapad. You mean the one labeled experimental thermal fritters? Do not attempt without supervision? I assumed the warning was ceremonial. He took the pan from her and dropped it in the disposal. It gave a metallic burp and spat out a few sparks. Breakfast aside, he said, we've got bigger problems. She raised an eyebrow. Someone pinged us with a proprietary Elindran beacon yesterday. That's not your average space spam. That's the kind of signal that means, hey, we know you're breathing, and we'd like to rearrange that. Ylsera nodded. I believe I know who it was. The signal cadence was personalized. It's an old command signature. Belongs to Commander Velen, my former second. Ryger leaned against the counter. Friend or frenemy? She hesitated. He was loyal. Until he wasn't. He led the detachment that betrayed me on Kyrex 4. Ah, the classic betrayal with extra lasers. My favorite bedtime story. I spared him once. He will not offer the same courtesy. Well, the good news is, we're mobile. The bad news is, he's probably already tracking us. Rhaegar tapped the console. A three-dimensional star map flickered to life between them, orbit lines and threat vectors blooming like an anxious flower. I plotted us a course to Nema Station. It's out of range from the major trade grids and mostly full of smugglers, retired pirates, and people who think hygiene is a suggestion. Ylsera considered it. Will they sell us out? Rhaegar grinned. Only if you tell them we're rich. Or edible. I am neither. Good. You'll fit right in. The ship entered slipstream without protest, an unusual but welcome development. Outside, the stars twisted into ribbons of blue and white, the hull shivering slightly as space-time gave them a gentle, physics-defying nudge. Inside, Ryger ran diagnostics while Ilsera cleaned her weapons. She moved with quiet precision, every movement efficient and controlled. She hadn't spoken much since the beacon, and Ryger respected the silence. Mostly. "You know," he said finally, "I've had a lot of odd jobs. Courier runs, freelance extraction, once even did security for a band called Cosmic Lettuce. But this?" He waved vaguely. "This is new. Running with a fugitive alien noble while being stalked by her ex-co-worker with homicidal tendencies." Ilsera didn't look up. "We weren't co-workers. We shared a chain of command, and I outranked him." "See, now you're just bragging." She paused, then said, "You are aware of the political ramifications if I am found?" "Oh yeah, we're talking full-blown interstellar incident. Senate debates, smug protest songs, possibly even a dramatic montage on galactic news?" She raised an eyebrow. "And you're still helping me?" "I already committed the felony of carrying. May as well see where it leads." The ship chimed. "Approaching Nema Station," it announced. "Warning, external conditions may include excessive body odor, unsolicited barter, and unauthorized accordion performances." Rygar snorted. "Home sweet hive of scum and questionable ethics." Docking was a mild chaos. The station was an enormous, rotating cylinder riddled with mismatched panels, flickering ads, and neon signs that promised everything from cybernetic massages to pet-friendly gravity boots. Ilsera adjusted her cloak, ears tucked back beneath the hood, and followed Rygar through the entry gate. The interior smelled like fried grease, engine coolant, and desperation. Rygar greeted it like a long-lost cousin. They headed to a vendor known only as Bunk, a 10-eyed reptiloid who sold illegal transponders and smoothies with the same level of enthusiasm. "Ryger Holt," Bunk croaked. "Still alive. Disappointing." "Love you too, Bunk. I need a code breaker and an anti-trace patch. Preferably something that won't explode on handshake." Bunk eyed Ilsera. "New friend?" "Don't get ideas," Rygar warned. "She eats people who ask too many questions." Ilsera nodded solemnly. "Only the noisy ones." Bunk blinked 3 eyes out of sync and handed over the goods. "No refunds." They left with their purchases and minimal bloodshed. Back at the ship, Ryger installed the patch, while Ilsera monitored external chatter. They didn't talk about what came next, but both of them knew. She stood beside him later, watching the stars realign beyond the viewport. "You know he'll find us," she said. Rygar leaned back in his chair. "Probably." "And when he does?" Rygar looked at her and smiled, that infuriating, tired, heroic grin. "Then we improvise. Loudly." The stars pulsed silently around them. Somewhere out there, danger brewed, but so did a strange and stubborn camaraderie, built on cracked armor, bad jokes, and the kind of loyalty that didn't ask for permission. Ilsera didn't smile, but she stayed. The warning lights flickered, casting brief shadows across the cramped bridge as Rygar stared at the holographic readout, his fingers tapping a rapid rhythm against the console. "You'd think with all the tech we have, someone would have invented a stop being followed button," he muttered. Ilsera stood beside him, her long ears twitching slightly, eyes narrowed in concentration. "If they did," she said quietly, "it would probably be classified under intergalactic espionage crimes, which means we'd be on every wanted list in 3 sectors instead of 2. Ryger grinned. "So the button's a trap." "Got it." The screen showed an incoming fleet, a handful of sleek black ships cutting through hyperspace trails like sharks smelling blood. "That's Velen's signature, all right," Ilsera said. "Faster than anything on the official registry, armed to the teeth with prototype weaponry." Ryger sighed. "Well, if he's coming for a rematch, we better be ready. I'd hate to lose my undefeated streak of barely escaping death." Ilsera shot him a look that suggested his streak was less than impressive. "Barely counts as surviving." "Details, details." The ship hummed as Ryger activated the defensive matrix. "We've got decoys, jammers, and a few surprises I picked up on Nema. Mostly explosive surprises, but hey, explosions mean style points." Ilsera adjusted the energy pulse rifle strapped to her back. Style points are irrelevant when your life is at stake. Hey, I'm betting on charm and dumb luck. He winked. A sudden alert interrupted the banter. Incoming hail. Channel open. The flickering hollow face of a silver-haired woman appeared. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. Commander Velen, Ilsera said through clenched teeth, still handsome in that dangerously untrustworthy way. Velen's voice was calm but cold. Ilsera, your games end now. Surrender and no harm will come to you. Rigger snorted. Yeah, right. And I'm the Emperor of Saturn. Ilsera's eyes narrowed. Why do you want me? To restore order. Your betrayal fractured the vanguard. You endangered the Empire's future. I saved lives. By running away, you made a mockery of our cause. Ilsera stepped forward. I chose survival over pointless martyrdom. Velen's eyes flickered. You chose cowardice. I won't let you hide. Ryger cut in. Well, if you want a friendly chat, maybe try a less ominous method, like a bouquet of explosives or interpretive dance. Velen's hologram faltered. You'll regret this. The channel closed. Ilsera turned to Rygar. We need allies. Rygar grinned. I know just the place. They set course for the Orbital Bazaar, a sprawling megastructure where everything could be bought, sold, or stolen. The bazaar was a maze of neon lights, interwoven pathways, and stalls selling exotic tech and questionable snacks. Ilsera's ears twitched as they landed. I've been here before. It's a nest of vipers disguised as merchants. Sounds like my kind of place, Ryger said, pulling on his jacket. They navigated the crowds, dodging a street vendor selling gravity-defying hats and a robot trying to sell them dubious insurance plans. Ryger stopped at a shadowed corner where a figure waited, slim, with cybernetic eyes that glowed faintly. This is Zara, he whispered. Codebreaker, info broker, and occasionally a sarcasm machine. Zara grinned. And you brought me what? Another walking disaster. Ilsera folded her arms. I'm not a disaster. Zara raised an eyebrow. That's what they all say. Rieger handed her a data chip. I need you to trace Velen's fleet, find their weaknesses. Zara plugged in the chip, eyes scanning the streams of data. Well, they're fast, well-armed, and fanatically loyal. Charming bunch. Ilsera smirked. Sounds like a dream team. Lucky you, Zara said. But there's one weak spot. A prototype weapon system still in testing. It overheats under sustained fire. Ryger clapped his hands. Explosions! Style points! Ilsera smiled for the first time in days. We have a plan. Back on the ship, they prepared. Ilsera calibrated her weapons, Rygar rigged the ship's weapon systems, and Zara interfaced with the ship's controls remotely. The tension was high, but beneath it, a current of humor kept the darkness at bay. Ready for round two? Ryger asked. Ilsera nodded. Let's give Velen a show. As the enemy fleet closed in, the ship's systems hummed with new life. They weren't just running anymore. They were fighting back. And maybe, just maybe, they'd rewrite their fate with a few sparks and a lot of stubborn courage. The final alarm blared, a cacophony of warnings and flashing lights that Ryger pretended not to hear. He was busy fiddling with a console that looked older than most of the stars outside the viewport. Come on, old girl, he muttered. Don't embarrass me in front of the galaxy. Ilsera stood firm beside him, her long ears twitching slightly as the ship rocked under fire. The enemy fleet had them pinned, relentless in pursuit. But something had shifted. They weren't running blindly anymore. They were fighting, and with every pulse of the weapon systems, they carved a little space for hope. Rieger glanced at her. You sure you're not secretly some kind of super soldier? Because you're making this look way too cool for someone who was practically space roadkill a week ago. Ilsera shot him a sideways smile. I prefer the term strategic survivor. He laughed, a short bark that cut through the tension. Strategic survivor it is. I think I'm going to steal that for my next tattoo. A sudden jolt threw them both off balance. Incoming! Ryger shouted, activating the shields just as a volley of energy blasts hammered the hull. The ship groaned, systems flickering, but holding. Ilsera tapped her comm unit. Zara, status. Firing up the override protocols now, came the reply, her voice crisp through the static. You've got a 37.8% chance of survival and a 62.2% chance of utter glorious chaos. My kind of odds. Great, Riker muttered. I always like my chaos with a bit of glitter. They dodged and weaved through the debris field, every maneuver tighter than the last. Velen's fleet pressed harder, but the heat signature on the enemy flagship began to climb, a direct result of Zara's hacking and Rygar's rigged weaponry. Ilsera focused her energy pulse rifle, picking off the smaller ships that closed in too fast. You know, she said between shots, if we survive this, I owe you more than just my life. Rygar grinned. I accept gifts, bribes, and the occasional awkward hug. Don't push your luck. The flagship's overheating weapon system sparked and exploded, sending a shockwave that rippled through the enemy fleet. Confusion blossomed like a supernova. The ships began to falter, retreating or breaking formation. Velen's hologram flickered into view on their console, frustration clear. You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. Ilsera met his gaze steady. Number the war ended when you chose fear over loyalty. Rygar chuckled. Also, you're really bad at hiding. The channel cut. Silence fell, heavy but healing. Ilsera lowered her rifle, the fight draining out of her. I never thought I'd make it this far. You didn't just make it, Rygar said softly. You changed the story, from hunted to hero. She looked at him, a flicker of something she hadn't let herself feel in a long time. Hope. Rygar leaned back, exhausted but alive. So, what now? Retire to a quiet moon with a bar that serves actual coffee? Ilsera smiled, long ears perking. Maybe, or maybe we rebuild, together. He raised an eyebrow. You always did like complicated plans? Complexity keeps things interesting. They shared a laugh that echoed through the ship, a sound of new beginnings forged from old battles. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, full of dangers and dreams alike. And somewhere between the vast unknown and their shared courage, they found a place to belong. No one dared to carry the alien woman, Rygar said quietly, but a human warrior did. And sometimes that's enough to change everything. Ilsera nodded. Enough to change everything. Elias stirred his third cup of coffee with the precision of a man who knew he was dangerously close to either genius or a nervous breakdown. The little orbital apartment above the market station hummed with the usual ambient noises, distant chatter, the rhythmic thrum of the Starliner docked below, and the occasional electronic beep from the holo panel he'd set up to track the solar flare patterns. All perfectly normal, except for the vampire. Sareth perched on the edge of the synthetic leather couch, a figure so human it would fool any casual observer if you ignored her ears. Long, elegant, pointed like twin delicate daggers framing her face, they twitched ever so slightly as if listening to some secret melody beyond human perception. Elias liked to joke they were antennae-tuned to his snark, and sometimes he suspected he wasn't entirely wrong. Seriously, Elias, she said, voice smooth as dark velvet, you don't need that much caffeine. I feed on your blood, not your jitters. Elias smirked. Yeah, well, if you're feeding on it, I'm going to need an espresso drip IV soon. Your diet is seriously lacking in the caffeine department. Sareth gave a lazy smile, revealing just the faintest hint of fang, which she promptly hid behind her lips. It's more complicated than that. Isn't it always? Last week you insisted on a plasma smoothie with extra B12, and now you're lecturing me on caffeine? Her eyes glinted. Blood chemistry is a delicate art, not some barista's whim. He raised his mug like a chalice, to delicate arts and coffee addictions. Their laughter mingled softly, the kind of laughter that had survived longer than most alliances in the outer colonies. Elias folded his hands, watching her out of the corner of his eye. You've been quiet lately, more than usual, even for you. Sareth's smile faltered just a fraction. I'm managing. Managing isn't the same as thriving. You know the council is still breathing down your neck, right? And your clan's politicking could probably fill an entire transmission channel. She shifted, ears flicking, as if shaking off a shadow. Politics are tedious. I prefer our little experiments in cohabitation. Experiments? He snorted. You mean the ongoing effort to keep me alive without turning me into a blood-soaked ragdoll? That, and the romantic dinners where I nibble politely instead of feasting. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. I still prefer the nibbling to that time you almost drained my arm in the elevator. Ah, the infamous elevator incident. She smirked. I swear the sensors malfunctioned. He gave her a mock glare. Your kind has an excuse. I just have a fragile constitution and a tendency to whine. Her gaze softened. Fragile, yes. Whining, endearing. He grinned. See? You love it. Sarah stood and walked to the window, her silhouette framed by the red glow of the dying star outside. Sometimes, I wonder if you truly understand what you married. Honestly, I'm still figuring out if I married a vampire or a sci-fi stand-up comedian. She turned with a wry smile. Careful, I could bite again. Elias raised his hands in mock surrender. Do your worst, but remember I'm your only source of entertainment. A soft knock at the door startled them both. Elias glanced at the panel. Delivery drone. Probably another package of those ridiculous anti-sunlight shades you ordered. Sarah chuckled. I like to be prepared. As the door hissed open, Elias caught sight of the medallion tucked beneath her collar, a relic from a world no longer welcoming to her kind. It shimmered faintly, pulsing with an energy he couldn't explain. What's that doing out? He asked. She hesitated. Old habits die hard. He watched her carefully, the light from the medallion casting strange shadows on her elongated ears. If that thing starts glowing in the middle of breakfast, I'm calling it a health hazard. She laughed, but there was a tremor beneath the sound, a hint of something deeper. Elias felt it too, the ancient weight wrapped in blood and time. Don't worry, she said softly. I'm still your gentle vampire wife. He smiled, though his heart thudded uneasily. And I'm still your foolish human husband. Let's keep it that way, yeah? She reached out, fingers brushing his cheek, sharp nails just barely grazing. Always, until the stars burn out, or I forget your name. Let's aim for the stars burning out. Their quiet moment shattered as the hollow panel beeped urgently. Elias frowned. Uh-oh, solar flare incoming, again. Sareth groaned. Just when I thought it was safe to enjoy breakfast. Elias grabbed his jacket. Come on, vampire queen. Let's go see if your blood sugar levels can survive another cosmic tantrum. She smirked, ears twitching in amusement. You're lucky I'm fond of you. And you're lucky I'm terrified of being your midnight snack. Together they stepped into the day's chaos, two unlikely lovers, bound by blood, humor, and the fragile hope that love could outlast even the most alien of curses. The shuttle's thrusters hummed like a purring beast as Elias fumbled with his collar, trying to make peace with the sharp edges of his formal wear. He wasn't built for diplomacy, more for breaking things while trying to fix them. Sareth watched him with a bemused tilt of her head, her long ears flicking in perfect sync with her smirk. Still can't believe you talked me into this, Elias muttered, tugging at his tie like it was a live wire. Politics on Lisva Prime? Seriously? What's next? A tea party with space pirates? Sareth's eyes glinted with dry amusement. You mean besides the blood-scented appetizers and neon-lit backstabbing? It's exactly your kind of fun. Elias sighed, glaring at the window where the neutral moon's dull glow threatened to swallow the shuttle whole. Fun is relative. I prefer things that don't end in mandatory loyalty oaths and possibly fatal misunderstandings. Sareth leaned close, lowering her voice. Just remember, I'm the highborn here. You're my charming human accessory. Play your part. He gave her a mock salute. Charming accessory, right? Got it. I'll try not to spill my drink on the delegates. Their landing was smoother than Elias expected, considering the shoddy reputation of interspecies transport. As the doors slid open, a blast of sterile air greeted them, filled with the scent of ozone and something faintly metallic. Elias adjusted the little drone buzzing by his side. Harold, the diplomatic AI program for translation and protocol. Except Harold had apparently developed a glitch during the last update. Good evening, esteemed guests. Ready to navigate the delightful jungle of political intrigue? Warning, I am not liable for any assassination attempts or accidental embarrassments. Harold's voice crackled cheerfully. Elias glanced at Sareth. You said he was updated. This is stand-up comedian mode. Sareth shrugged. If we're going to die in style, Harold might as well make it entertaining. The council chambers were a bizarre blend of alien architecture, impossibly high ceilings curving like skeletal ribs, hollow cymbals pulsing in strange rhythms, and delegates wearing expressions sharp enough to cut through starship hulls. Elias felt his own grin twitch nervously. The first delegate, a multi-eyed, many-limbed creature named Rilstar, eyed Elias like he was a particularly irritating mosquito. The human accompanies the highborn? Fascinating. Elias nodded with what he hoped was a winning smile. I'm here mostly to hold hands and not get vaporized. Mostly. Sareth stepped forward with the grace of someone who had been navigating such hostile waters for centuries. I stand apart from faction conflicts. My interests are personal, focused on maintaining peace. A ripple of murmurs. Elias glanced at Harold, who whispered, Code red for political bluffing detected. Suggest sarcasm dampening. Elias sighed. No promises. The talks began in earnest. Endless debates about ancient blood laws, territorial rights, and the kind of secrets that made Elias question his breakfast choices. Sareth's clan was a fractured dynasty, torn between tradition and the desperate need to adapt. Elias watched her navigate the labyrinthine etiquette, her long ears twitching with every subtle threat disguised as a polite inquiry. During a break, Elias found himself cornered by a lesser delegate, an overly enthusiastic creature with 4 arms and an unsettling grin. Your bond with the highborn is most unusual. Tell me, does the human husband enjoy the nocturnal diet? Elias blinked. Doesn't enjoy it exactly. More like tolerates it with increasing grumpiness. The delegate chuckled, emitting a sound somewhere between a gurgle and a snort. Ah, a sense of humor. That is rare among your kind. Elias nodded solemnly. Rare, but vital. Keeps me alive. Meanwhile, Harold was broadcasting unauthorized jokes about vampire-human marriages across the extranet, much to the horror of Sareth's security team. Why do vampires love human husbands? Harold announced in a booming voice. Because they're easy to bite and harder to understand. Sareth shot Elias a look that could freeze plasma. I swear, if you let that AI near the dinner table again, I will reconsider the nibbling. Elias raised his hands in mock surrender. Noted. No AI jokes at formal dinners. Got it. Back in the chambers, tensions thickened. Delegates whispered of rebellion, ancient grudges, and the rising scent of betrayal, something primal flickering beneath the polished diplomatic surface. Sareth's eyes darkened, her restraint thinning. Elias noticed her fingers curling slightly, the way her gaze sharpened like a predator hunting in shadows. Elias, she said quietly during a rare lull, if things go sideways, remember your part. He smiled, though his heart raced. Charming human accessory, right? Her lips twitched in a rare, genuine smile. Exactly. Just then, a hush fell over the room. A delegate was missing, vanished without a trace. Panic rippled through the assembly like an electrical surge. Harold buzzed nervously. Suggestion, initiate emergency protocol, or at least a really good joke to lighten the mood? Elias shook his head. Not the time, Harold. Sareth's ears twitched, her senses alive to something unseen. This summit just became far more interesting. Elias swallowed. Great. I was hoping for just a few hours of awkward handshakes and polite backstabs. Sareth took his hand, her grip firm, grounding. Whatever happens, we face it together. Elias smirked, the familiar spark of defiance lighting in his eyes. Together. Even if it means dancing with political assassins and malfunctioning AIs. Harold piped up cheerfully. Dance floor is clear. Ready for your moves. Elias groaned. I'm already regretting signing up for this. The Winter Daughter hummed softly as it slid through the star-speckled void, a sanctuary of silence amid the cosmic chaos. Elias sat rigidly in his usual spot, fiddling with the panel that controlled the ambient lighting, desperately trying to conjure an atmosphere that didn't scream awkward aftermath of a political disaster. Sareth reclined nearby, the faint pulse of her medallion echoing through the cabin like a slow heartbeat. You know, Elias began, eyes on the flickering display, I always thought the hardest part of being married to an alien vampire would be explaining it to my mother. Turns out it's the post-summit emotional carnage. Sareth tilted her head, her elongated ears catching his words. You make it sound as if I'm the emotional wreck. Touché, Elias said, shooting her a grin. But seriously, you've been different since the summit, more restless. Her smile was soft but haunted. I suppose some things are hard to keep at bay when you're surrounded by old ghosts. Ghosts in politics, Elias muttered. Worst combo since oil and water. Sarah's eyes flickered with amusement. Don't forget caffeine and plasma. He chuckled. True. Speaking of plasma, remember the nibble incident? She winced playfully. Your arm still looks better than I expected. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Elias said, flexing the slightly bruised limb. Though I'm starting to wonder if your bites are less about hunger and more about sending some sort of mixed signal. Her gaze dropped. It was desperation. Desperation. Elias leaned forward. Care to elaborate, or should I brace for the cryptic alien poetry? Sarah's voice lowered, laced with vulnerability. I needed reassurance. He blinked, caught off guard. Reassurance? Yes. After centuries of isolation, of being feared and hunted, even a high-born vampire like me fears rejection. That bite was a question. Elias's grin faded into something softer. You bit me gently to ask if I still love you. Exactly. He shook his head incredulous. You know, most people just text that sort of thing. Her laugh was quiet, almost shy. Our kind has different methods. Different is one way to put it. There was a pause as the ship's AI hummed quietly, the stars outside flickering like distant memories. So, Elias said, breaking the silence, what now? Do we keep playing this game of interspecies marriage roulette? Sareth's eyes glinted with resolve. We survive. Together. Elias reached over, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. Those delicate, sharp ears that marked her as something otherworldly, yet profoundly real to him. Survive, huh? Sounds like we're in for one hell of a ride. Before she could answer, the comm panel beeped urgently. Elias grabbed it, and a hologram flickered to life, a face etched with concern. Elias, Sareth, the voice was clipped. Official. Sensors detected an anomaly in your bloodstream following the bite. You need to come to the medbay immediately. Elias frowned. Anomaly? Sareth's expression tightened. They've never seen this before. Great, Elias muttered. From vampire bites to alien viruses. They docked at the station's medbay, greeted by sterile white walls and a team of scientists armed with instruments that beeped and scanned. Elias felt like a lab rat at a cosmic carnival. Hold still, one technician said as a scanner glided over his arm. Data flooded the display. Your physiology is adapting, another added. The bite transferred not only blood, but genetic markers. Elias groaned. So I'm turning into a vampire? Not exactly, the lead scientist said, eyes serious. But your body is integrating alien DNA. Your healing rate is accelerated. Your senses heightened. Sareth's hand found his. It's irreversible. Elias looked at her, half horrified, half fascinated. You mean I'm evolving? More or less, Harold buzzed nearby. Excellent. Now you'll have vampire reflexes and human charm. Unstoppable combo. Elias shot the drone a look. Killjoy. As the days passed, Elias felt changes. His vision sharpening, fatigue melting away, even his sense of smell tuning into frequencies he never noticed before. But with the gifts came strange dreams. Memories that weren't his. Flashes of Sareth's past lives flickering behind his eyes. One night he woke gasping, heart racing. Sareth was there, calm and steady. Nightmare? She asked. More like a history lesson, Elias said. I saw your homeworld, the battles, the first feeding. She nodded. The bite tied us more deeply than I intended. Great. Now I'm part vampire, part human, and all confused. She smiled softly. You're still my human husband. Elias grinned despite himself. And you're my alien vampire wife, who bites first and asks questions later. They laughed, the sound filling the quiet cabin. A fragile beacon of hope amid the swirling chaos of blood, love, and the cosmos. Sarah slid through the dim corridor, the faint hum of the station's life support systems filling the silence. Elias followed, clutching a steaming cup of something he refused to identify as coffee anymore. It tasted more like burnt hope than anything remotely soothing. You know, Elias muttered, I think we should petition for a no alien politics day on every planet. One measly day where no one threatens to stab anyone, verbally or literally. Sareth's long ears twitched in amusement. You'd last about 5 minutes before suggesting a treaty to end all treaties. True, Elias gave a half grin. I'm basically a walking diplomatic paradox. Ahead, the medical wing's automated doors slid open with a hiss, revealing the clinic's sterile glow. Dr. Velrin, a sharply efficient hybrid of human and Lisvian tech, greeted them with a nod. Good to see you again, Velrin said. How's the vampire-human hybrid holding up? Elias smirked. Oh, you know, just trying not to glow in the dark or sprout wings? Sareth rolled her eyes but didn't correct him. He's adapting. Slowly. Velrin tapped her wrist implant. The genetic integration is more complex than anticipated. Elias, your body is rewriting itself at a cellular level. We're seeing nanoscale viral symbiotes integrating with your DNA. Elias choked on his, whatever it was he was drinking. So I'm part virus now? Fantastic. What's next? A glow-in-the-dark button? Sareth's laugh was light. You always find the silver lining. Verin's eyes gleamed behind her glasses. More than that, the symbiotes enhance healing and sensory input, but they also come with a cost. Your immune system is recalibrating, leaving you vulnerable to new pathogens. Elias made a face. Great! I get superpowers but catch every space flu on the market. Sareth nudged him playfully. It's not all bad. You're more than human now. More than human? That sounds like the start of a bad comic book. Velrin smirked. You're evolving, Elias. The union of human and Lisvian vampire is unprecedented. The future might depend on this. Elias stared at her. That's a lot of pressure for a guy who can't even keep a plant alive. Later in the quiet of their quarters, Elias tried to focus on the datapad glowing on the table. It displayed complex biofeedback loops and simulations of his new physiology, graphs that looked like cosmic roller coasters. Do you think I'm going to turn into some kind of space monster? Elias asked, poking the screen. Sareth appeared beside him, her eyes soft. You're still you, just enhanced. Enhanced, Elias repeated. Like a smartphone with too many updates that slows down instead of speeding up? She laughed. Maybe a bit. Great, I'm a walking glitch. The room's dim light flickered as the station shuddered lightly. Another routine tremor, or something more. Sareth's ears twitched sharply. That was no routine tremor, she said, standing abruptly. Sensors just picked up a spike in the solar wind. We might have a storm incoming. Elias groaned. Fantastic. The universe keeps reminding me it's not a friendly place. Sareth's gaze hardened. We need to prepare. Storms disrupt communications, and the station's shields might falter. Elias grabbed a toolkit, already feeling the familiar adrenaline surge. Remind me again why I signed up to be married to someone whose family throws star systems into chaos? Because you're brave, Sareth said simply. Or stupid. Sometimes I can't tell. He smiled. Both probably. As they worked, the storm's intensity grew, rattling the station like an angry beast. The power flickered and alarms chimed, a cacophony of impending disaster. Elias looked at Sareth. You're sure your vampire strength includes fixing electrical grids? She grinned. Only one way to find out. With a spark of humor amidst chaos, they plunged into the heart of the storm together, two unlikely souls navigating the volatile dance of love, survival, and cosmic upheaval. Elias rubbed his temples, staring at the flickering console as the final sequences of the starship's reboot protocol counted down. Sareth sat beside him, her long ears twitching in sync with the rhythm of the hum returning to the ship's systems. They had weathered the storm, both literal and metaphorical, and now faced the quiet aftermath together. You know, Elias said, if someone had told me a year ago I'd be married to a vampire alien, part vampire myself, surviving cosmic storms and political assassinations, I would have asked where the nearest exit was. Sareth smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the control panels. And yet here you are, still standing, remarkably intact. He grinned, flexing his enhanced fingers. Thanks to you and whatever nano-symbiotes decided to rewrite my DNA. Still can't decide if I'm more human or alien. She tilted her head, amused. You're more than both. You're unique. Unique? That's your diplomatic answer? She laughed softly. It's true. Your existence is a bridge between two worlds, a living testament that difference can become unity. Elias looked out the viewport where stars twinkled with indifferent beauty. I used to think love was simple. You know, coffee dates, awkward handshakes, and occasional arguments over whose turn it was to do the dishes. Sarah's smile faded into something tender. Love is more complicated when it spans galaxies, bloodlines, and curses. He nodded slowly. But maybe it's also more real, more worth fighting for. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Do you still love me, Elias? Not just the human you, but the part vampire, part alien me. Elias reached for her hand, the familiar warmth grounding him. More than ever. Even when you bite first and ask questions later. Sarah chuckled, squeezing his hand. I suppose I'll have to work on my approach. Or I could just carry more garlic. Elias joked, earning a playful glare. The ship's AI chimed softly, interrupting their moment. All systems operational, ready for departure. Looks like the universe isn't done with us yet, Elias said, standing and stretching. But I think we're ready. Sarah nodded, rising beside him. Together. As they prepared to leave the station, Elias felt the weight of his journey settle into something new. Not fear or confusion, but a quiet confidence. He had changed, grown beyond the limits of his humanity, embracing the strange, beautiful complexity of his life with Sareth. The stars awaited, endless and unforgiving. But with her by his side, he knew they could face whatever came next. The vampire alien who had bitten him gently and asked if he still loved her had become his partner, his anchor, and the reason he believed in forever. Ready for our next adventure? Elias asked, eyes shining. Always, Sareth replied, a soft smile playing on her lips. And with that, they stepped into the vastness of space, two souls bound by love, blood, and the unbreakable ties of choice. Liara's hands clenched the cold metal of the ship's railing as the stars streaked past, a blur of distant suns and forgotten worlds. The hum of the engines vibrated through the deck beneath her boots, but it was the tightening knot in her chest that made her fingers white. Great, she muttered, voice rough, like the gravel of the deserts back on Viridia. Captured by a human. Could this day get any worse? From behind her, a voice dripped with amused sarcasm. Well, technically, you volunteered to surrender. Sort of. Marcus leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. I thought you'd put up more of a fight. Liara shot him a glare sharp enough to cut through titanium. I put up plenty of fight. You just happened to have better weapons and backup. Don't flatter yourself. Marcus chuckled, stepping closer, the scent of burnt ration packs and machine oil clinging to him. All right, Warrior Queen. Care to explain why you're grumbling when you should be grateful? You're not just anyone's slave. You're my slave. Lucky you. Lucky me? Liara's tone was acidic. I'm a prisoner, not a prize. If this is your idea of hospitality, I'd hate to see your hospitality bill. He laughed, shaking his head. Hospitality bills are low when you don't explode the ship's oxygen recycler. That was a nice touch, by the way. Almost gave us all a premature goodbye. Liara's cheeks flushed. If aliens had cheeks. Your food concoctions almost did the same to me. What was that? Some sort of fermented algae sludge? Tastes like recycled starship fuel. Hey, don't knock it until you've tried it twice, Marcus said, mock seriousness in his eyes. We call it galactic delight. It's an acquired taste. And by acquired, you mean survivable. Liara cracked a reluctant smile, a rare crack in her armor. See? Progress already. Marcus folded his arms. Look, I'm not the enemy here. We're stuck with each other, like it or not. The galaxy's a mess, and right now your best shot at survival is sticking close to me. Plus, I've got a plan. Liara's eyes narrowed. Plans usually mean trouble. Marcus shrugged. Trouble's my middle name. Well, it would be if I had one. Then why are you here, human? What's your plan for me? To keep you alive, mostly. And maybe use that famous warrior prowess of yours to save my skin a few times. His smile faded, replaced by something more serious. You're stronger than you think, Liara, and not just because of your muscles. Liara stiffened. Don't start with the pep talks. I'm not here to make friends. Not friends, Marcus said, stepping closer, voice lowering. Partners. Maybe even something better, though I promise not to drag you to any boring diplomatic dinners. Liara snorted. You underestimate how boring I find your entire species. Fair. He held up his hands. But for now, let's focus on getting through this war zone. There's a rebel faction waiting to blow us into cosmic dust if we're not careful. Liara's fingers flexed around the railing. Sounds charming. Their banter was interrupted by a sudden jolt. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring. Rebel ambush! Marcus shouted, running toward the command console. Liara's instincts kicked in. She dropped the railing, landing in a fighting stance. Finally, something worth my time. Marcus tossed her a blaster. Show me what you've got. With a sharp laugh, Liara fired, taking down 2 incoming drones. Don't blink. You might miss it. Marcus grinned, covering her flank. You're making a slave's life look way too interesting. They moved together, a chaotic dance of survival, gunfire lighting up the cramped ship, their voices cutting through the noise with sarcastic quips and quick jabs. Liara's respect for Marcus grew with every shared glance and saved life, even as her pride fought against it. When the last drone exploded outside the viewport, silence fell, punctuated only by their heavy breathing. Marcus wiped sweat from his brow. Not bad for a newbie. Liara smirked, lowering her weapon. Don't get used to it. Wouldn't dream of it. He paused and then added with a wink. But maybe stick around long enough to learn a few tricks. Liara glanced at him, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirring beneath her fierce exterior. The stars outside continued to race by. But for a moment, the vast emptiness of space seemed a little less cold, a little less lonely. The ship hummed a steady tune beneath their feet, a lullaby of machinery that could either cradle or crush depending on who was at the helm. Marcus scratched his jaw, glancing sideways at Liara, who sat with an impassive expression that might have been boredom or plotting his slow and inevitable demise. So, Warrior Queen, what's next on the agenda? World domination? Galactic conquest? Or just a quick nap? Lyra's long ears twitched. Only if world domination involves better food. Your galactic delight still haunts my dreams, mostly the nightmares. Fair enough, Marcus smiled, tapping a few buttons on the console. Next stop, the rebel stronghold on Zathra Prime. If we want to survive, we need to negotiate a truce. Or, crash their party and hope they don't mind. Liara folded her arms. And what makes you think they'll listen to a human and his slave alien? Because, Marcus said, leaning closer with a conspiratorial grin, I've got a secret weapon. Liara raised an eyebrow. Your charm? I remain unimpressed. Nope. Marcus pulled a small blinking device from his pocket. Translator implant. Real time. You talk, it translates. No more yelling at each other in ancient war cries. Liara snorted. Finally, I thought you just enjoyed my colorful insults. Guilty as charged. He winked. Speaking of insults, care to share what you really think of human politicians? I'm asking for a friend. Liara's grin was sharp. They're as useful as a solar flare during a power outage. Touché, Marcus laughed. Well, we're definitely going to fit right in with the rebel bureaucracy. The ship descended toward the jungle planet, its dense canopy barely visible through the thick atmosphere. Marcus flipped switches as alarms sounded briefly, a false alert. Liara smirked. You're about as subtle as a supernova. Hey, I'm a soldier, not a diplomat. Marcus's grin faded as the ship touched down roughly, dust kicking up like an angry sandstorm. The rebels met them with wary eyes, their leader a grizzled woman named Vina, whose gaze sliced through Liara like a vibroblade. You're the human with the alien slave? Marcus raised his hands. Not a slave. Partner. Liara snorted but said nothing. Vina's lips twitched in what might have been a smile or a warning. Negotiations began with stiff words and sharper glances, the rebels suspicious of human intentions. Liara noticed a flicker of admiration in Vina's eyes when she spoke of battles fought and lives lost, their shared warrior's code bridging some of the divide. You fight with honor, Vina finally admitted. That's rare. Only when the stakes are worth it, Liara replied, and only when you don't have to deal with endless paperwork. Marcus muttered under his breath, Don't remind me. The translators buzzed quietly between them, smoothing the rough edges of their languages. Hours stretched into tense hours, filled with jabs and jests that broke the ice like a sonic drill through solid rock. Liara teased Marcus for his awkward attempts at rebel customs, while Marcus joked about the rebel camp's questionable hygiene standards. If this is a rebel base, he whispered, I'd hate to see their enemies. At one point, Liara attempted to outdrink the camp's veteran, only to find herself flat on the ground with a rebellious snort. Marcus barely suppressed a laugh as he extended a hand to help her up. You're lucky you're worth saving. Lucky me, Liara grumbled, but the smile tugged at her lips betrayed her. As the night wore on, the fragile alliance began to take shape. Plans were laid out, weapons distributed, and uneasy friendships forged in the firelight. Marcus and Liara moved through the camp like an odd dance duo, her fierce, deliberate steps matched with his cautious but steady rhythm. Think they'd notice if I switched your blaster for a water gun? Marcus asked with a grin. Liara rolled her eyes. Try it and I'll personally see you end up as a starry ornament on that tree over there. He laughed, shaking his head. One day you'll learn to appreciate my sense of humor. Unlikely, she shot back, but her eyes softened, betraying a flicker of warmth. Just as exhaustion began to claim them, an urgent message crackled through the comms. Rebel scouts report an incoming fleet. They're not interested in peace talks. Marcus's jaw tightened. Looks like the party just got crashed. Liara stood, warrior stance ready. Good. I was getting bored. Marcus smiled, the familiar spark in his eyes lighting the dark. Welcome to the galaxy, partner. Together they prepared for the storm, a human and an alien bound by circumstance, wit, and a growing respect that neither dared to name aloud. The rumble of distant engines was more than just a background hum now. It was a promise of trouble, a warning that the galaxy's chaos was crashing right into their fragile alliance. Marcus squinted at the tactical readout, fingers tapping rhythms that betrayed his rising anxiety. Fleet's closing fast. We've got maybe 10 minutes before their fighters swarm the perimeter. Liara's gaze sharpened, but her smirk was playful. 10 minutes to show them why human-alien teams shouldn't be underestimated. I was hoping for more time to enjoy your charming company, but I suppose this will have to do. Marcus grinned despite the tension. Charm's part of my battle strategy. Works about as well as your long ears in a stealth mission. Hey, Liara shot back. These ears pick up things you humans wouldn't notice until you're being vaporized. Like the sound of you running. Touché, but don't be surprised if you see me running first. Their banter was cut short as alarms blared through the rebel base. Vina's voice crackled over comms, sharp and commanding. All units to battle stations. Defend the perimeter at all costs. No one leaves until the last star falls. Liara loaded her blaster, the familiar weight comforting. Ready to dance with death again? Marcus flexed his fingers. Lead the way, warrior queen. The battlefield outside was a chaotic ballet of lasers and explosions. Plasma bolts lighting the night like fireworks gone rogue. Marcus and Liara moved in sync, their weapons singing deadly songs. Between shots, Liara quipped, You know, for a human, you shoot pretty well. Marcus laughed, ducking a stray blast. I learned from the best. You. Flattery will get you nowhere. She fired, taking down a drone with surgical precision. But keep trying. As the fight raged, Marcus's comm buzzed. Command to Marcus. Reinforcements inbound. ETA 5 minutes. Hold the line. Great. 5 minutes to hold off an entire fleet. No pressure. Liara's laughter was fierce. Pressure is what makes diamonds human, or so I'm told. Amid the chaos, a malfunction in the base's shield generator caused a ripple of panic. Marcus shouted, Liara, can you handle the generator? We can't lose that shield. On it! She sprinted toward the flashing console, fingers dancing over controls alien and confusing. Why does everything you humans build come with a dozen warning labels? Because apparently, "Don't push this" isn't clear enough, Marcus yelled back. Liara's quick wit and battle-honed instincts saved the generator just as enemy fighters broke through the perimeter. Shields back online. Now let's make them regret showing up. With the shield restored, the rebels pushed back, the tide turning with every coordinated strike. Marcus and Liara found themselves back to back, firing into the encroaching darkness. "Not bad for a slave," Marcus teased. "Maybe I should promote you." Liara smirked. "Promotions come with more paperwork. I'm good where I am." Suddenly, an enemy sniper targeted Marcus. Liara's eyes narrowed, blaster aimed without hesitation. A single shot, and the threat was neutralized. "Keep your head down, human." "Thanks, Warrior Queen, I owe you one." "You owe me nothing. Just stay alive so I don't have to explain to the council why my slave got herself killed." Their laughter cut through the noise, a brief oasis in a storm of destruction. As reinforcements arrived, the enemy began to retreat. Marcus watched them flee, breathing heavy. "We made it." Liara wiped sweat from her brow. "Barely, but we did. And somehow, I think this is just the beginning." Marcus nodded. "You think the galaxy's ready for the likes of us?" Liara's grin was fierce. "Ready or not, here we come." As the battle faded into the hum of rebuilding, their partnership solidified, not just by war, but by the laughter and trust they found amidst the stars. The rebel camp was a swirl of activity as repairs and reinforcements poured in from scattered allies. Marcus was hunched over a datapad, squinting at star charts and fleet coordinates that seemed determined to rearrange themselves just to spite him. Liara leaned against a crate nearby, arms crossed, watching him with amusement. "You know, for someone who claims to hate paperwork, you sure do spend a lot of time staring at glowing rectangles." Marcus shot her a mock glare. "These glowing rectangles decide whether we survive or end up as space dust. Not exactly my idea of a vacation." Liara smirked. "I'd say you're just avoiding manual labor. You know, like actual fighting?" "Hey, strategists are the real warriors," Marcus said with a flourish. "Besides, and someone has to make sure we don't accidentally attack our own side." Liara snorted. "I've seen your aim. Friendly fire is definitely a risk with you around." Marcus pretended to be offended. "That was one time." "One time too many," Liara quipped. Their easy banter was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Vina, the rebel leader, whose expression was all business. "We have a problem," she said bluntly. "The enemy isn't just regrouping. They've got a new weapon. Something we haven't seen before. A stealth cruiser that can disable our sensors and cloak entire fleets." Marcus rubbed his chin. "A ship that can vanish and mess with our eyes? That sounds like a bad day at the office." Liara's eyes gleamed. "Sounds like an excuse for me to get up close and personal? No sensor can hide from a well-placed blade." Vina gave a rare smile. "Good, because we're going to need that edge. We've pinpointed the cruiser's location near the Caldor Nebula. If we don't take it out, they'll cripple our entire operation." Marcus stood, the weight of command settling on his shoulders. "Then that's where we go. A small strike team, quick in and out." "Liara, you're with me." Liara raised an eyebrow. "Glad to see I'm finally getting the invite to the party." "Only because you're the best shot we've got," Marcus said with a grin, "and because someone has to keep me from getting killed by friendly fire." She rolled her eyes but nodded. "Fine, but if I get vaporized, you owe me a new blaster. And maybe a vacation." Marcus laughed. "Deal, but no promises on the vacation." The journey to the Caldor Nebula was tense, but filled with their usual banter. Liara teased Marcus about his human obsession with comfort, pointing out the questionable taste in music he blasted through the ship's speakers. "If I hear one more of your Earth ballads, I'm going to lose my mind." "Hey, these songs have history," Marcus defended, "and besides, they distract me from the fact we might die at any moment." "Distract me too, then," Liara said, a rare softness in her voice. As they approached the nebula, the ship's sensors flickered and dimmed. The stealth cruiser was working its magic. Marcus cursed under his breath. "This is going to be tricky." Liara grinned. "When isn't it?" They slipped through the swirling gases, shadows cloaking them like a shroud. Suddenly, a pulse hit the ship, systems flickering dangerously. "They've found us," Marcus said grimly. "Then it's time to dance," Liara replied, loading her blaster with deliberate calm. The stealth cruiser materialized like a ghost, sleek and deadly, its surface shimmering with cloaking energy. Marcus piloted the ship with practiced skill, weaving through laser fire and energy pulses. Liara's shots found their marks with lethal precision, each blast a promise of defiance. Amid the chaos, the cruiser launched boarding pods. Liara caught one mid-flight, sending it spinning into the nebula's depths with a blast. "Come and get me," she taunted. Marcus laughed despite the danger. "You're asking for it." Their teamwork was seamless. Marcus's quick thinking and Liara's fierce accuracy, a perfect storm. Finally, they breached the cruiser's core, setting charges that would disable its stealth systems. As they fled the collapsing cruiser, Marcus grinned. "Not bad for a human-alien duo, huh?" Liara smiled, a rare warmth in her eyes. "Not bad at all. Maybe I'll keep you around." Marcus shook his head, chuckling. "Careful. I might start thinking you actually like me." Liara's laugh was genuine. "Don't push your luck." The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of danger, but also possibility. Together, they were more than warrior and prisoner. They were partners navigating a galaxy that neither had ever expected to call home. Marcus stood at the viewport of their ship, watching distant stars streak by in slow motion, the endless black a canvas for their unlikely journey. Liara's presence beside him was a steady weight, her long ears catching the hum of the engines as she leaned in, her usual smirk softened by something warmer, almost shy. "You ever think we'd get this far? From slave and captor to this, whatever it is," Marcus chuckled. "If you told me when we started that we'd be planning a wedding instead of a mutiny, I'd have thought you were hallucinating." Lyra's laugh was low and genuine. "I might have been." Their path had twisted through betrayals, battles, and uneasy alliances. Yet here they were, not just surviving, but thriving. The war-torn galaxy outside hadn't softened, but they had carved out their own space amid the chaos. The rebels they'd fought alongside now saw them as equals, their partnership a symbol of hope in a universe starved for trust. "Remember when you tried to teach me human dance moves?" Lyar asked, the memory making her grin. Marcus groaned. "How could I forget? I still have bruises from your lessons, and I still have nightmares about your singing." They laughed, the sound a fragile shield against the darkness that loomed beyond their ship. But the war was not done with them. News came that the enemy's last stronghold was falling, their fleet fractured and retreating. Vena's message was clear. Victory was within reach, but it demanded one final push. Marcus and Lyara prepared for the assault with a calm born from hard-earned trust. "You ready to lead this charge?" Marcus asked. Liara's eyes sparkled. "Born ready. But if we survive, you owe me a proper celebration. No blasters allowed." He raised an eyebrow. "No promises on the blasters, but I'm good with celebrations." The battle was fierce, a whirlwind of light and sound that tested every skill they had. Liara moved like a force of nature, her long ears twitching with every sound, every threat. Marcus coordinated strikes with a strategist's mind, his commands sharp and sure. Mid-battle, a surprise attack left Marcus pinned beneath debris. Liara didn't hesitate. She fought through enemy lines, her determination blazing brighter than any weapon. Reaching him, she hoisted the heavy beam, strength born from years of hardship and unspoken loyalty. "Not today, human," she said with a grin. He laughed despite the pain. "I'm starting to think you don't actually hate me." "I don't," she admitted quietly. "Not anymore." When the dust settled, the enemy's stronghold was theirs. The galaxy's war had shifted. New alliances formed, old grudges faded, and hope stirred in places it hadn't in centuries. Back aboard their ship, the atmosphere was lighter. Marcus held out a small, simple ring. "I never thought I'd ask an alien warrior to marry me. But here we are." Liara's long ears twitched in surprise, then acceptance. "Only if you promise not to sing at the ceremony." He grinned. "Deal." Their hands clasped, a symbol of a journey from chains to choice, from enmity to love. In a galaxy where nothing was certain, they had found something worth fighting for, and something worth living for. As the stars stretched infinitely ahead, they faced the future together, not as slave and master, but as equals, partners, and something more profound than either could have imagined.